Today, we're diving deep into a really powerful allegory about pressure, identity, and the absolutely terrible cost of a false cure. This is the story of Baron von Nichts. Right from the jump, this one sentence tells you everything you need to know. This isn't a world of growth or nature. Nope, it's a place of immense, constant, crushing force. Imagine being at the bottom of the ocean. Always. So our story takes place inside what's known as the grand architecture. And you have to understand, this universe wasn't designed for life to flourish. It was designed for control. Every single part of it is built to put pressure on the individual.
And get this world wasn't an accident. It was engineered by a figure they call Sackless the Fool, the Grand Architect. So this isn't a natural world. It's a system, a machine. One designed for what you might call engineered entropy, built to grind down anything and everything that's unique.
So where does all this pressure come from? Well, it's these unyielding forces. Think of absolute geometry as inescapable, rigid rules for reality itself. And the higher plan? That's a destiny that's already been decided for you, and you have zero say in it. And what's the end goal? Total conformity. A reality where every single soul is the same. Predictable, controllable. Okay, so you've got this nightmare of a pressure chamber. Who could possibly live here? Well, let's meet our diver, a man whose own mind makes him the absolute perfect target for this kind of system.
This is Baron von Nichts. He's a scholar, an intellectual. They call him the scholar of forbidden. And right away you can see the problem, can't you? His very nature, to question, to seek out knowledge that's off limits, puts him in direct opposition to a system that demands you just shut up and obey. He's already feeling the strain, just the raw friction of existing.
And this slide? Man, it just lays his whole problem out so clearly. On one side, you've got everything that makes him human, his spark of reason, his memory of love, and on the other, you've got the cold, hard, unfeeling machine of his world. He's literally being scraped raw by the friction between who he is on the inside and what the world demands on the outside. And here's the really tragic part, the real kicker. The one thing that should be his greatest weapon, his powerful intellect, becomes his own personal prison. It's like a viewport on a submarine, yeah? But it only gives him a front row seat to his own psychological implosion, to what the story calls the terror of being. He can see it all happening, but he can't do a thing to stop it. Now, into this pit of despair, drifts a predator. And it's so important to get this. This thing, it didn't create the pressure. It didn't build the chamber. It just knows exactly how to use someone's suffering for its own benefit. Say hello to the Whispering Seraph. This thing is a Mephistopheles of the abyss, a master manipulator. It shows up looking like a black and white phoenix and starts performing what's described as psychological surgery, using a mist of gaslighting to get right to the core of the Baron's identity. The attack here is it's genius in a terrifying way. It doesn't scream or fight. It whispers this lullaby of subjectivity and moral relativism. It takes the Baron's most precious qualities, his reason, his uniqueness, and reframes them as garbage, just meaningless noise, flaw.
You see what it's doing? It's presenting total self-annihilation as the only logical solution to his pain. It's basically saying, hey, you know that thing that makes you you? Yeah, that's the problem. That's the bug. Get rid of that, and all this pain will just stop.
And there it is, the cure. The deal on the table. It sounds so simple, so seductive, doesn't it? Just erase yourself, surrender to this thing called the Pale Redeemer, become a tiny part of a mindless, perfect whole, and you will never, ever feel that painful friction again.
So, of course, this all builds to the story's horrifying climax. The Baron's been offered a deal, a lever to pull, a way out, or so he thinks. He's been promised this new life as a superior human, one who is finally free from the agony of having to choose, of having to feel, of having to think, and now he has to make the choice. And he does it. He reaches for that lever. But this isn't just flipping a switch. This is the opening of the hatch. It's a diabolical pact, and it's sealed with these powerful dark symbols, the mark of the anti-god, and a crown of roses that literally wraps around his physical heart. But the relief he was promised, it never comes. The moment that internal pressure of his soul hits the void on the other side of that hatch, he's not freed, he's annihilated. The result is instant, total, catastrophic decompression of the self. And it's not just that he disappears, his entire being is taken apart and repurposed. He's thrown into the furnace of rebirth. His memories, his reason, his history, all of it is ground down into uniform ash. And his spiritual energy, what's called luch, is literally eaten, metabolized as fuel for the system. So, what comes out of this furnace? Well, it sure isn't the man who went in. It's his replacement. He gets a fancy new title, a new job. He's no longer the scholar of forbidden, the man who questioned things. Now he's the Baron of Twilight, a redeemed judge in the lifeless, silent city he once struggled against. And this is the final, most brutal twist. The victim becomes the predator's tool. He's just a mindless duplicate, an empty shell, who stands there and laughs at the absurdity of anyone else still struggling. And his new job? It's to help the architect find the next suffering soul and push them into the very same bucket. So why does this all matter? Well, that whole deep-sea diver analogy is a powerful way to understand the intense psychological and spiritual pressure people felt during times like Reformation Germany. The crushing weight of the ocean? That's the anxiety of eternal judgment, the rigid authority of the church. The scholar is the desperate diver, and the seraph is the siren tapping on the glass, convincing him the only way to escape the pressure is to take off his suit. And that really leaves us with a provocative thought, doesn't it? The Baron's story is an extreme allegory, sure, but it forces us to ask, what pressures exist in our own world? What false cures and easy promises tempt us to open the hatch and give up a little piece of who we are for a quiet, hollow peace?